Hello, and thank you for joining our live Google Hangout on Air. My name is Anita Narayan, and I'm the Education Editor at U.S. News and World Report. Today's Hangout is titled, You Got Into College, Now What? The all-important May 1 college decision deadline has come and gone, and students have now decided where they're going to be attending college, but there's still a lot of work to be done. So with that in mind, U.S. News has gathered together a great panel of experts who are going to offer college admissions advice, and not just about admissions. They're going to talk about admissions, financial aid, housing, all of the topics that are important over the next few months. So joining me today is Ryan Hargraves, Senior Associate Dean of Admission at the University of Virginia, Heather McDonald, Associate Dean of Financial Aid and Admission at Sarah Lawrence College, and Diane Andrews, Senior Director for Residence Life at Penn State University. If you're a viewer who's joining us live, you can use the Q&A app to ask questions, and time permitting, we'll have our panelists answer those questions. We also received some great questions from our Facebook and Twitter users, so we'll definitely try to get to those as well. So let me just jump right into the first question, and this one is for all of you. So what is the biggest mistake that admitted students make this time of year when it comes to A, admissions, B, financial aid, and C, housing? So Ryan, let me start with you since you tackle admissions. Tell me about the biggest mistake that you've seen admitted students make.
Sure. Well, I believe that students should resolve to be finishers, and that is to say that academic performance, continued strong academic performance even throughout the final year of high school is critical, whereas many selective colleges admit students conditionally, so they expect them to maintain academic strength throughout the year, and if they don't, if the students experience a decline, they can certainly expect to hear from admission committees, and in extreme cases, students can jeopardize their offers of admission, their place in the incoming class. And furthermore, I believe that those students should strive to maintain strong academic performance because those habits will follow them, and so creating and building momentum for a good, successful start to a college career, in my opinion, is a wise thing.
Mm-hmm. So really, they shouldn't let senioritis kick in, even though that's natural. They really need to kind of see that end goal.
Exactly.
Great. So let me turn it over to Heather. How about from kind of the financial aid perspective? What's the biggest mistake you've seen admitted students make this time of year?
Not unlike what Ryan just said, it's taking your foot off the pedal, and that is in terms of finishing up all the paperwork that's necessary for financial aid. What financial aid officers have done is gone out and award you the resources that you're eligible for. Now we have to go out and get them. And sometimes that requires another layer or another level of paperwork to be done. So just because you got a financial aid award letter doesn't mean those resources are going to be on your student account in the fall unless you follow through with the requests of the financial aid office throughout the summer.
Mm-hmm. So they should really keep in touch during the summer. It shouldn't just be, again, just sort of checking out because they received that letter.
Well, it's not only that, but they should, whatever way they are choosing to communicate with us, they should be checking email. Make sure I have a valid email. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I have emails that students don't read, and so we're sending all this information believing they got it, right. But in actuality it's sitting out in somebody's email unread.
Mm-hmm. Great. And Diane, how about from your perspective? Housing is obviously one of the many things that students will be hopefully thinking about over the summer, but what's a big mistake that you've seen admitted students make?
Well, I think it's some of the same information that Heather talked about, in that housing usually sends a lot of information over the summer for students to really be aware of how to best move on to campus, how to get to campus. So keeping up with what they're getting from the university is really important as they move forward to thinking about the beginning of their year.
Mm-hmm. So it seems like a common theme. It's really staying in touch over the summer and not sort of checking out for in all cases. So let me move on to the next question, which is about the role of parents, because I know we will probably have parents that are watching this or will be reading about this later and over the coming months. For all of you in your different roles, what do you think is the best role that parents should play between now and orientation if they have an accepted college student in the family? Let me start with, again, with Ryan.
Sure, I'll jump in. So I think that parents should work to empower students to prepare them for the independence that will come along with college enrollment, and they should, work to support them as they embark on this journey and to help prepare them for unstructured time, which will come in abundance with college enrollment. And I often encourage students and families to, sit down and come up with expectations. What is expected on the part of the students? What is expected on the part of the parents? So, a success plan, if you will. And I think that students, ultimately, they're responsible for taking advantage of their educational opportunities. So I often encourage students to create a mission statement, and that mission statement will be an umbrella to sort of guide them as to what they want to accomplish both academically and otherwise during their undergraduate experience.
Is the mission statement something that you think that the parent should be involved with?
I think the parent, because they know the student very well, I think that they can help, tweak the mission statement, and if there are things that the student's not thinking about, or, just to kind of, based on their own perspective, if they can help them shape that mission statement, I think that that's helpful. But ultimately, here again, it's the student's responsibility to take advantage of their education.
Okay, Heather, how about from your perspective, from the financial aid side of things, what role do you think parents should play before the students set foot on campus?
Well, that's an interesting question, because financial aid is pretty parent-centric to begin with.
Right.
However, during the summertime between that last bit of high school and the beginning of college, if you've never sat down with your child and talked about financing and financial management, how you're going to live in a budget, what are you going to do with your work-study check, this summer is the time to have that kind of conversation. Also, it's important to note that while we will continue to establish and continue our relationship with parents, it's an ongoing relationship and collaboration all through the 4, 5, 6 years, however long it takes a student to complete their degree.
So this is actually a good time to start that process, because it's going, as you said, it's not just your first year. The parents should actually be involved all 4 years.
That's correct.
Okay, and Diane, how about from the housing and residence life perspective? What role do you think parents should play there, if any?
Well, yeah, I think it's really important. I know that, Ryan talked about the independence, and it's an adjustment for both the parent and the student in dealing with the independence that they're going to have for the very first time. So there's a number of things that they can talk about over the summer, and one being how we're going to be sharing information with parents if they ask, because really the students sort of at this point in time own most of their information and need to give us permission to share with their parents. So there's conversations about what the parents are going to have access to, so they can go into it understanding and totally expecting that they should have some access to information regarding their student, especially since they're typically paying for their education, and but having those conversations in advance about what that might look like.
Okay, great. I want to make sure that we have some time to answer questions, as I mentioned, that we received from our readers via Facebook and Twitter. So let me start with one from Facebook. This came from Jikan Patel. And the question is, what are other means of financial aid other than RA and TA type positions and on-campus jobs, as they are difficult to acquire for everyone? So since it's a financial aid related question, maybe Heather, do you want to try and tackle that one?
Sure. I think what the student needs to do, as any student needs to do, is research all the institutions they're interested in and find out how they handle certain groups of students, like international students or students who will work as RAs. There are some nuances to the international student, but there are institutions out there that will help international students with the college's own resources, as opposed to what we do for domestic students, which is use a combination of the federal and state and college resources to help a family pay for their education. But yes, there's usually work opportunities on campus for students. Again, checking out with each one of the individual campuses that the person is interested in is probably my best advice.
Is there anything that they should be doing at this stage to find out about those types of on-campus positions, or is that difficult during the summer months?
It's not so difficult. A lot of us have it already posted on our web pages. I can't emphasize enough, particularly in financial aid and student employment, that we try to be as transparent and open to our community as possible through our website. So you're going to see different facilities that campuses have. Some of us have very sophisticated websites and others don't.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a great place to start building that research that a prospective student might be interested in.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. This next question comes to us from Twitter from, I might be pronouncing this wrong, but Up All Night Hallie. And this is a housing question. This person asks, is there a way you can change your room? I would really like to have one facing the sunny side. Ha ha.
Well,
so that's obviously for Diane.
Yeah, well, each institution is a little bit different in how they run those processes, but typically, yes, there will be ways that you can request a specific room, even after arriving on campus, if you're not either happy in your room situation or you find someone else you want to live with. There are typically processes in place that you'll be made aware of to make those changes. I'm not sure you're going to want to change your room just to get a different angle of the sun, but I do think there are ways that you can work with the residence hall staff and the assignment staff to change your room if you need to.
Okay, great. This next question, I think, Ryan, maybe you can tackle. How important is it to attend orientation?
Sure, that's a great question. I would say that new student orientation is tantamount to the acclimation process. And at orientation session, students will have the opportunity to meet with teaching faculty and other advisors, as well as administrators across the student services spectrum. They'll also have the opportunity to meet their peers and connect and make some initial friends. And at many orientation sessions, this will be